Nyck De Vries is part of Formula One's past at the moment after being sacked from AlphaTauri after just 10 Grand Prix races into his rookie season, and time will tell if he will eventually be back at the pinnacle of motorsports. De Vries' results were not what Helmut Marko, who is responsible for choosing the drivers for Red Bull's sister team, had hoped for, and the Austrian, as he has done so often with other drivers, showed no mercy in cutting the Dutchman and replacing him with the experienced Daniel Ricciardo, who was eager to return to racing after losing his McLaren seat at the end of last year and signing as Red Bull's reserve for this year. De Vries remained silent when news of his Formula One exit broke, but 8 days later, he finally took to social media to express his feelings on the matter. While he thanked both Red Bull and AlphaTauri for allowing him to race in Formula One, he expressed his disappointment at what he described as a premature decision. "A short note from me. After recent events, I decided to take some time for myself away from social media, which I will continue to do," De Vries wrote on Instagram. "I would like to thank Red Bull and Scuderia AlphaTauri for the opportunity to live my dream. Of course, it hurts that the F1 chance I dreamed of for so long ended prematurely. Thank you to everyone for your kind and encouraging messages in the past week. It's been heartwarming to feel your support." AlphaTauri boss Franz Tost justified De Vries' dismissal by stating at the Hungarian Grand Prix that the team had not seen a sign of development and improvement from the driver when he raced on circuits he was already familiar with. "It was difficult for him also because our car was not so competitive, and if a car is not so good, it's even more complicated. I expected a much better performance in Austria and Silverstone because both of these tracks Nick knew quite well. But the performance didn't come up," he explained. With the second half of the season featuring completely new tracks for De Vries, such as Singapore, Japan, Mexico, Austin and Qatar, AlphaTauri felt the situation would not be straightforward for its rookie driver and opted to jump into Ricciardo's experience. Despite Tost's explanation and justification, most of the drivers on the grid showed sympathy for their slacked colleague, with Lewis Hamilton, who worked with De Vries during his time as reserve driver for the Mercedes team, taking the opportunity to criticize Red Bull, his biggest rival in recent years. When Hamilton was asked if he thought that De Vries was sacked too early, the Briton replied, "Yes, but that's how Red Bull does it." Pushed later on whether it was how F1 works, being tough on rookies, Hamilton added, "You can say that's how Red Bull works." Beyond AlphaTauri's decision, the fascinating thing now is to analyze what will happen to Nyck De Vries' career and whether he will ever get another chance in Formula One. In recent years, we've seen cases of drivers who have stayed out of the sport only to return sometime later. Just looking at the current grid, we find 5 returning drivers: Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hülkenberg, and of course, Daniel Ricciardo. With that background, then, De Vries' chances of making a spectacular Grand Prix comeback could be just around the corner, but it's not that simple. On closer inspection, it seems likely that, under the current circumstances, any of the 10 Formula One teams would be interested in putting De Vries, who turns 29 next February, in one of their cars. Perhaps the only way to start thinking about a return to the Grand Prix is through Mercedes, due to Nyck De Vries' past as reserve driver before his failed stint at AlphaTauri. Interestingly, De Vries was photographed with Mercedes boss Toto Wolff in a Monaco cafe shortly after his sacking from AlphaTauri, and Andrew Chauvelin, Mercedes engineering director, said the Dutchman would be welcome at the Brackley-based squad when asked about it in Hungary. "I think Nick will be looking for more than just to become a simulator driver, so he wants to be doing racing. I've only spoken to him by text and he said he'll let me know how his plans are coming on. He was certainly very useful for us in that role and we'd be welcome to get him back in that role, but I suspect that his focus will be on finding race seats," he said. Don't forget that Mercedes signed Mick Schumacher to take De Vries' place this year, and the German seems to be doing a good job in helping the team in the simulator. If Mick gets a place on the grid in 2024, then a spot could open up for De Vries. However, it is one thing to be a reserve driver and quite another to come back in as a starter, and the options for that with De Vries look limited, even for Schumacher too, to be fair. One might believe that Mercedes could eventually influence one of their customer teams to place a driver in their cars, like was the case with Ocon in Force India or George Russell in Williams, but even if they wanted to, Aston Martin and McLaren don't have a place available for 2024, and Williams are delighted with Albon, while American rookie Logan Sargent is doing well. With a difficult prospect of finding a route back to Formula 1 in the short term, De Vries may already be considering a return to Formula E, the series where he was champion in 2021 with Mercedes. Before signing with AlphaTauri for 2023, De Vries was on track to race with Maserati in Formula E, although that path now appears closed as the team has Swiss driver Edoardo Mortara under contract for next year and an option on German Max Gunther, who gave the Italian brand its first win in a World Championship since 1957 and biggest points haul this year. In addition, Maserati has Felipe Drogovic, Formula 2 champion in 2022 and Aston Martin reserve driver, as another option if the Brazilian does not make it to Formula 1 in 2024. Another possible option for De Vries in the Electric Car Championship could be Nissan in place of Frenchman Norman Nato, while a return to his former Mercedes team, which for 2023 has changed its name to McLaren, is unlikely. In addition to Formula E, the World Endurance Championship appears to be a good opportunity where De Vries could rebuild his career. The Dutchman already raced in that series in the LMP2 class and in fact was in advanced talks with the Toyota team to take the place of Argentinian Jose Maria Lopez before his arrival in Formula 1 cancelled those plans as well. It remains to be seen if the Japanese manufacturer still has interest and a place for De Vries in either of its two cars, or if another of the many manufacturers now competing in the WEC finds it attractive to acquire his services. In the meantime, De Vries has already announced that he will take some time for himself, but it'll be fascinating to discover what's next in his career. Bear in mind, we're talking of a proven talented driver who succeeded in every series he raced and will be eager to show the world once again what he's capable of while driving very fast cars. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to The Grid Report, where we bring you the latest F1 updates.